always a good sign. Like when I hit the go live button and then my cell phone tells me immediately like, hey, you're subscribed to the Trickle up. You can go watch their thing. They just went live. I know that we actually went live.
Facts.
Yeah, and then I have to mute myself immediately because I could hear myself. And then I'm going to go to comments. And so I can see that Wonder Woman's already here. And so since we're live, I apologize that the editing job for either Spider-Man or Boyce is a little bit delayed here, but we never started at the beginning anyway. So. Okay, everyone, let's see if we can change some minds tonight. Tonight's kind of a shorter stream for Matt and I. And so we're just going to talk about one thing, and that is the Nabisco strike. Because one, we usually try to do any kind of major strike update. And this one actually made national news. So like it was kind of a bigger deal and like what was going to happen. And like one of the core demands was higher wages. And as someone who's like always advocating that like, yeah, you can't get your basic needs met if you don't have a certain level of income. That to me is crucial in any kind of negotiation. So I'm going to just give a quick little recap of the strike, and then we're going to watch a 60-second video about it. And then Matt, I'm going to get your takes. So on Saturday, employees of the company Nabisco ended their strike. The strike took place in Illinois, Virginia, Colorado, Georgia, and most notably Oregon, where the strike began on August 10th, over a month ago. In early August, around 200 workers went on strike after the company pushed for an alternative work week that included Saturday or Sunday and removed the overtime pay individuals would have received for working during the weekend. By mid-September, around 1,000 employees had gone on strike. The individuals on strike were supported by local businesses and groups, including like teachers groups. Like it was really cool. And there was a call to action to boycott Nabisco products, where there were demonstrations inside grocery stores of people boycotting Nabisco products. The new contract was approved after a 590 to 201 vote in favor, obviously, because it was approved from the union. The new contract was met with disappointment, though, as the alternative work week that Nabisco originally proposed was one of the reasons they went on strike, specifically because they weren't going to pay people more for working on the weekend. And it's kind of disappointing that like the main thing you would want from your strike never actually got negotiated. However, there are other things in the contract that like were improved. And so it wasn't just like a complete flop. But there was a lot of TikTokers who followed the strike and were part of the strike. And so I just kind of compiled a quick, like I said, 60-second recap of like what it was like.
How does management tell you to get by? They don't. Tanya just tells you that your cars are too nice. Yeah! You make too much money. Yeah!
We just came back from a meeting. The proposal, we're voting no.
So that was in Portland. Obviously, some of the other strikers, enough of them voted yes. But go ahead, Matt, what's your take?
I mean, my take on this is just bullshit. Like it's all like first, my first thought is there's been a lot of debate amongst people about like the effectiveness of strikes and things of that nature. So my first thought is I would just like to hear like people's kind of reactions to this, like this in general, just from like the various camps, kind of know what they think about this specifically. But my second thought, is why I said it's bullshit, is all this. So they want workers to cut overtime, right? All right, we're gonna like increase hours on certain days, cut overtime. You have to work weekends and things like that. They had an increase in profit. Like when they posted their revenue and shit this year, like Nabisco had an increase in profit, I believe like 12%. So it's like with all this shit going on in the country, right? With all this shit going on in terms of our economic status for like your working people, right? As like people in general, like with everything going on, they're doing okay, obviously. And we got to cut people. They got rid of the pension plan, right? Which they replaced the 401k. I think that they doubled that from 25%, 50%, which would be like 6% of your salary or something like that. I know they gave an additional bonus, but to your point, they didn't actually bring back the pension plan. I don't think they addressed the schedule issue. So that would maybe lend some credence to like people like how effective are strikes really, like, but at the same time, like, this got national news. And here's the thing, here's why, like, it started in Portland and it spread to other states like this. So that'd be my pushback on like that camp saying it's like, yeah, maybe they didn't fully get what they want, but like this got more people involved, and it always starts somewhere.
Yeah, like in other words, if this is a war on corporations, then like a peaceful war, if you will, this is a lost battle essentially, but it's not the first battle, and it's not going to be the first strike we hear about. And maybe now other unions are going to be more down to strike, seeing what happened with Nabisco. But yeah, the scheduling, I believe, is 3 shifts of 12 hours. So 36, because like if you get over 40, you definitely are going to get that overtime pay. And so there's no benefit to working on the weekends, because if you work Monday through Wednesday, you make the same money if you work Friday through Sunday. And that, I think as a society, we should acknowledge that some days our time is more valuable. And as unions and employees, we should demand that certain days where your time is more valuable, you are compensated more, or you just don't work those days. So as a society, we either just need to accept, like, yeah, sometimes your favorite restaurant might be closed at 4 on a Sunday or a Saturday. I don't know, but that's, I can't imagine a schedule where you are scheduled 12-hour shifts Friday through Sunday, and it's viewed as the same as Monday through Wednesday. Like, that's just not,
that's horseshit.
An appropriate assessment of humans' time and how valuable it is. So
it's horseshit. It's like to your point, it's straight up horseshit. We know, like, it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, or if like we know how people view the week. We know what days are valuable within that week. We know when most fun events are typically scheduled and things like that. And it fucking sucks. It sucks. We all know, like, if you have a nice job Monday through weekend, like Monday through Friday, and you have to like work a weekend sometimes, it doesn't feel good, does it? Because you feel like you're missing out on certain things and whatnot. So 100%. We structure our society so that weekends are fun time. It's not perfect, because obviously some people work, graveyards, some people work weekends, but like that's generally how the schedule works for like at least our country. You can go read, obviously, just go to like negotiations. I think it's like mondelezinternational.com, and they'll kind of give you like their update and the specifics of what happened, right? So it's like a 4-year contract, retroactive to earlier in the year, because I think the contract ran up like in summertime, which isn't like the end of the world, but then with some of the increase in hours, what really did it. I'm trying to look if there's anything specifically that we missed.
Well, and it's just interesting that, like, you were like, profits were up. Like, there was no reason they needed to like save money on payroll. They just wanted even more profit. So, like, yeah,
not just revenue, profits were up. Like, literally, so like not just like money bringing in, like, doesn't mean like they're bringing in, but like, other costs were like increasing. No, they like walked with more money in their pockets than previously. Like, so. But this is the point, man. Like, so this is like the micro, but the macro takeaway is workers keep getting fucked and corporations are still okay, because the big ones aren't going to fail in the certain conditions right now. They're not. It's actually conducive to them because of the way the game's played right now. And it's like my mind keeps going back to like all the different, like the McDonald's, the Amazons are starting to say like, oh, like we're going to increase pay. Oh, well, I pay for tuition in certain areas, things like that. Like, so it's really disingenuous to me, like for like a big company like Nabisco to play that, oh, like we can't afford this card. But like you said, small loss in the battle, but the war is just beginning, has been going, and will keep going.
Yeah, and I also would like to add that, like, was something that was interesting about this strike is it wasn't just the individual people who worked for the company that like played a part in what was negotiated in favor of those people. So there was a call to action to boycott, and people did, and they demonstrated. Like, they not only were just like, yeah, I'm not going to buy Oreos, but like they went into grocery stores with their own signs advocating for, we should boycott. Like, I didn't buy any Nabisco since August 10th. I don't know how much that moved the needle or anything, but I'm like, yeah, if we all go in that mindset, like for the greater good, it will benefit all of us.
Yeah. I'm sorry to cut you off, but Eliana, you're 100%. So strikes are effective if people can hold out longer, but people living on paycheck to paycheck find that hard to do, right? Which is why I think it's a trash take from my camp that who plays the UBI like, yeah, you know what would help people fucking strike? UBI. That would help people. So like, if you think that's like a tool of the capitalists, I think you're fucking wrong and myopic. So.
Yeah, like, no, I have no pushback there. I'm like, yeah, unions would only become stronger if everyone suddenly had leverage for union dues, which aren't even unreasonable. I don't know who needs to hear that, but like, they're not even unreasonable.
It hurts a little bit up front sometimes because like you could pay out or you can like pay up front. It sucks a little bit, but hey, man, believe me, if you've ever been in a position where corporate's trying to give you the finger, or if it's good to have that protection, and because like that's the other issue, man, is if you look at our economy, like if you don't have like safety nets for like workers in terms of like if you don't have like adequate unemployment, things like that, like if you don't have like adequate representation in government, things like that, like what do you like who's going to support you, who's going to argue for your rights?
Oh, he lost connection. I'm sure he'll jump right back in. I think that's the first time that's happened on the Trickle up. I don't know how long it'll take him to get back to the link. I think it's unfortunate that the software that we use, or the platform rather, just gets rid of all the branding if just one person's on. I should make sure that, he'll just text if he can't get back on. I was like, I should make sure that he's not writing on a different platform. There he is.
Is that the kind of day apparently, huh?
Yeah, no worries. That's an easy. I didn't go on because I was like, that'll just make the editing weirder. So that'll just be a jump cut. Yeah.
You gotta have something to negotiate on your behalf, right? And like that's like, it's so fucking obvious every time you have this conversation, right? Because like you think about it like in a legal sense and like from the government sense, right? From like a work, like there's nothing that supports workers right now beyond unions, which don't have like a great reputation, like because they work so hard to demonize that. So even unions are kind of undercut in terms of like their like ability to impact things. Like look at what happened with the Amazon workers. I think it was down in Alabama. It was Alabama or Arkansas, right? So I don't know what people want, honestly. Like, I'm not sure what people want because like there's people on my side of things who, like don't want to give people the tools that would allow them to actually like move forward, right? Like, oh, like these are tools of the capitalist and this incrementalism, blah, 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 blah. Right. But then at the same time, like the people who like are being hurt by this shit as well, right? Like, oh, we don't like unions though, and like getting them on board for UBI is difficult. And like, oh, like, like we don't want government. It's like, what do people fucking want? Honestly, like I don't know what the fuck people want. Like, I'm not sure anymore. Like, cause it's like, and someone else, and this is way off topic, but it's like it's the same thing, man. We see people like fighting for like economic shit. We see people fighting for like civil rights shit, human rights shit, all this shit. It's like everyone's fighting some individual fight. Like no one's linking up, no one's like helping each other. Like it's like I don't know, man. It's I don't see this story ending well, Shy.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think strikes are good, but I think putting all the pressure on the employees to potentially lose their livelihood is it's not where we should be at, because the power is in the consumers. And I don't think that the contracts would have been, I just think that the boycott played a part in the improvements that did happen. And I think people should focus on that and be like, yeah, next time that there's a strike, what can I do? Even though I have nothing to do with it because I don't work for that company, what can I do to stand in solidarity with those people?
What's the motivation for people to stand in solidarity if they're not feeling it?
I don't know. I just do that by default. So I don't really understand why no one else does. So
that's because we know you have empathy, and that shit's in short supply in America. So that's the problem, man.
Yeah, empathy is key. Empathy leads to solidarity.
100%. So. That's why also last part, guys, we'll always take the time to say a holiday strike. So if you want to actually like impact this shit, like there's ways to do that. So like again, workers, like I'm going to support the general strike still, but like we just point out, who's going to face the consequences of that action, who's like actually putting themselves at risk with that action. It's the workers. It's people who, like we've already pointed out, might not be able to even be in that position because they are paycheck to paycheck, right? They are thinking about how they can put food on their table, things of that nature. We know the economic conditions in the country right now. So if you care about this shit, but maybe you can't strike, or maybe you're not in a position to need to strike, you feel like, holiday strike. What can you do as a consumer? So, and it's not that difficult. It's not that difficult. Like, you don't need you don't need the brand names. You don't need like the big corporation shit. Like, you don't need it.
Yeah, I agree that solidarity is not the default setting for the average American, but it doesn't have to. Like it has been at some points. I can't even say that because I was like, who are we kidding? Like, there's so many flaws here, but the more people who to get on board with like solidarity needs to be the new America first. More like it'll slowly become that way. But yeah, there's not
It's not
like,
our default.
And I hate to say it, but I'm like, there were so many problems during like World War II. So many problems. Like, I don't want to be like, that's a great opportunity. That's a great example of America, because it's not. And I will die on that hill, as you well know.
You're 100% right, though. Like, I mean, fuck it, tangent. But like, what, like, the only thing great about World War II were the specific people who bought into the narrative of what they were fighting for, and like people rally around that. You can't take that away from people who like really think they're fighting like some great war. They're the front line of like this evil. Like, fair enough. Like because like that was a hell of a fight. Like, you can't take like that was a hell of a fight.
But that
like,
solidarity only worked because they had a scapegoat.
It wasn't
another kind of human.
It wasn't even solidarity. Like the Battle of Bamber Bridge and shit like that, right? What happened in like Britain when like there was a town that it didn't have segregated bars, right? What happened there? You had white soldiers who were like trying to fight. Like, pretty much they told. I'm gonna kind of butcher the story. Go check it out. The Battle of Bamber Bridge. But essentially, what happened is there's a town in England or somewhere in the UK maybe that didn't have segregated bars. There's 3 bars in the town, I believe. They weren't segregated. So of course there was black soldiers and white soldiers who were there drinking. And the white soldiers, especially in leadership, tried to tell the town this is unacceptable and you have to have a bar that only serves blacks so that they're not with the whites, right? And that's like really, like, so like this like golden generation, like solidarity, unity, they're so great. And it's like, and what ends up happening is like there's actual fights. Like, they try to arrest soldiers, they try to like they actually have a battle. Like, there's actually a fight between black soldiers and white US soldiers, and of course they try to keep it hush hush and all this shit. But like that was our golden generation. Like, that's not fucking solidarity, man. Like, look at the way that, like and someone brought it up, like when we were talking, this was one of the smart things I've ever heard. Someone's talking about reparations. A form of reparations could be, what about all the black soldiers who fought in World War II who didn't get their GI Bill, access to the GI Bill, because they couldn't get access to education because of segregation and things of that nature. So it's like, yeah, dude, like, miss me with that shit. The only times I can think of like any level of solidarity with the civil rights movement to some extent, and the labor and socialist and women's suffrage movements in the 1900s, early 1900s. But even those movements got muted, so there's tons of pushback, obviously. Yeah, and I mean, the whole World War II thing, who was funding both sides of that war? American corporations. Like, we're building, like, I mean, like, like someone said it, like, you got soldiers showing up and like, whoa, Ford's building tanks for both sides. What's up with that? Whoa, American, our production, or how come our buildings aren't getting blown up in Germany? Like, how come the Nazis ended up with us? How come we were funding them beforehand? It's like, this is all a fucking farce. So. We got way off topic. My bad.
No, we were just talking about that. Like, yeah, the strikes will work better if there's solidarity among the non-employees of the business, and specifically the consumers of the business. Like, I hate to, with all due respect to the employees, the consumers have all the power. They can really make things change in contracts. They just have to realize that, like, the boycotts to starve the corporations is where it's at. Yeah, I agree. Like, I'm not usually pro scapegoat, but I'm like, I would much rather the message be starve the corporations than eat the rich, with all due respect to anyone who lives by that phrase, because that really is just saying tax the rich, and that we can't do without Congress. Whereas like we personally can starve the corporations.
Yeah, 100%. Like, and like that's the thing right now, because like if you want to go into like whole like the class struggle thing, your consumers are low level bourgeoisie, right? That's your low level capitalists right there. So I mean, stop fucking feeding the machine, motherfuckers.
Yeah, I think I would have said it less intensely. I was like, that's not a great bumper sticker, but yeah, exactly.
She's wrong. That's a great bumper sticker. Stop feeding the machine, motherfuckers.
Yeah, okay. On second thought, yeah, and especially since it like nods to like Rage Against the Machine, and like people really, really dig that. So
Can we talk about that? People who dig bands like System of a Down and Rage Against the Machine, who then subsequently like fucking spew like ideologies and beliefs that are the exact opposite of what they're fucking singing and talking about. Like,
yeah, I've seen that trend on TikTok. It's a little awkward, and I'm just like, oh, it's kind of like when people use anti-Vietnam War music, and like, which is critical of America's choices as like super pro-American, and I'm like, I don't think you understood what he said just there.
which just tells you all you need to know about the American mindset. But on that note, do we want to hit any comments? We want to hit anything else you think we need to talk about with the Nabisco strike, guys? There's a if you're looking for more information on this, like I said, you can go. I think I listed because I got booted out of the thing I had in the private chat. But you can just go look up the New York Times story on this, and there's a few pretty good links in there. One will take you to a Twitter link that will show you the actual contract itself, what they had access to. So it'll show the specifics of what was negotiated. I think like the bonus. It'll show like the scaling for the 401k. It'll show like the raises, how that's going to work. Because I think they get like a few different types of raises over annual period. There's like an initial boost, things like that. So it'll show you the specifics of that. And then you can go to the union's actual site, and they'll talk about the overview of why they're doing this, the goals, and their stance on this and position going forward. So if you just want a little more details, the nitty gritty of it all, but pretty much hit most of it.
So that's pretty much like, yeah, how the clip ends. And then if you want to see more of myself or Matt or both of us, join us in 5 minutes over at youtube.com/mutethemedia. Thanks for joining us for the Trickle Up, everyone.